Hey YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So I thought I would give you guys a bit of an update video on how the PPG Envirobase has been going for me. So I've been in this shop here for nearly 5 months, so I think I'm well enough qualified to give you guys my opinions on it. So yeah, basically we'll start off with my overall thoughts, my ranking and grading. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average, 10 being awesome, I would probably give it like a 6 or a 7, definitely above average. There's much worse out there, but I still think that there is like a better system out there. Like I would probably say that I like the Stando Blue a little bit better. Now that doesn't mean that there are no positives to this, because there definitely are some plus sides to the PPG Envirobase. So one of the things that I really like about it is that I find it a little bit easier to blend out. So because you're able to use lower pressures or you don't need the higher pressures, it just seems to blend out a little bit easier. I would also say that there's less of a learning curve to using this system. So if you're coming from solvent or pretty much any other waterborne system apart from the Axalta ones, you're going to be able to pick this up relatively easy, I would say. However, with the Standox or the Axalta systems, it's a little bit less intuitive, if you know what I mean. So there's a certain way that the Standox stuff has to be sprayed, and if you don't spray it that way, you're probably gonna have bad results. However, this is a little bit slower because you have to put a coat down, dry it, put a coat down, dry it. Some of the colors don't cover that good. I actually did a blue Commodore this morning, and the coverage on that was terrible. I've done like 3 like light blue or mid blue metallics and pearls this week, and all the blues, for whatever reason, they are actually the worst in the system. It's not even the reds or the greens. I haven't done that many greens, but the blues are the worst. Like the metallic blues are the worst in this system. But if you were using the Stando Blue, it would literally be 1 visit, 1.5 coats, stand there for a couple of minutes with the dryer, and then you're clearing. So the colors aren't too bad. Like most of the time you're gonna have a color chip, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes I find it a little bit surprising. Like there's really common colors, but there won't even be a color chip for it. I mean, common for Australia, so being that it's an American company, maybe it's not common color for other parts of the world. And then sometimes like you'll be going edge to edge on a bumper and you'll have like 5 or 6 color chips, and none of them are like perfect. Like there's 1 or 2 that's blendable, but I had this happen quite a few times on quite a few different colors. Like, so again, as I say, I'm going to be comparing to the Stando Blue, and most of the time, like I would say 90 to 95% of the time, you don't even need to do any color matching. You get your color chip, yep, and most of the time you'll have something that is edge to edge. I mean, butting up a bumper, if not blending. So yeah, I found it was only that 5 or 10% of the time that you had to do spray outs. However, with this system, I'd probably say it's like more 10 to 15. So it's not bad, so don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying the color matches are bad with this, but yeah, if I ever don't have a color chip, I might actually go and get the Spectra and then do a Spectra and then link that up to the computer. And on the topic of the Spectra, it's probably not as good as Standox's one. So like Standox will grade your color in a percentage, so it'll say 95 and above, and it'll give you like a rating, like good, bad, or like there's a color rating as well. Like red is bad, and you know probably stay away from it. Green is good, and then you got your orange in the middle. And then I think it's like anything below 95%. So from 90 to 95%, you will actually get like a shade. You will shade it, and it might just drop a little bit of black out. But then I found 99% of the time, it would be pretty much right. So yeah, whereas with this system here, like it will only shade it, and it doesn't get, I don't think it gives you a percentage. Honestly, I don't use the Spectra that much. I try to avoid it in this system where possible, but it'll only shade it when it's below, like, I think it's 10, so it will rate it from 1 to 10. So it won't give you a percentage, but it'll rate it 1 to 10, and it'll only shade it if it's below 10, like if it's like a number 11 or something like that. And then if it's that bad, I'm staying away from that color. You know what I mean? Like you really want, I don't know, from 1 to 5, anything below 5, you sort of, what you want to do is like mix up, and that's what I do a lot of the time with this system, is I'll just mix up 150 ml tester and then I'll spray that out and I'll say, whoa, that's terrible. Or I might say, hey, that's perfect, go in and just paint it and mix up your full batch later. But then it might be a case of saying, okay, well, that's terrible. I'll still use that formula, but I'll drop some of the blue out, some of the black out, make some adjustments, then double check it, and usually you're pretty right. So yeah, as I say, like, it's not the kind of system where you won't be able to match the color. Like, I've used some of those really cheap paint systems like Concept No Mix, and no offense, I know it's an Aussie company. If you're watching and you're from Concept, you know, no offense to you guys. Like, I wanted you guys to have good paint, but it's just some of those metallics, they're just not there. Like, you will never get the right sparkle out of their tinters, you know. So that's definitely not the case with this. You're definitely always able to do the color matching. Yeah, another thing that I briefly mentioned earlier was the blends. I do find the blends a little bit easier to do. Now, what they will tell you to do is like do reverse prep when you're doing your blends. So they'll say do your edges first and then do your Wizzy or your orbital sander, because they're going to make those fine little scratches, so that when you do, say, your silver blend, you're not going to see any hand sanding scratches. But I don't like to do it that way. When I'm doing my prep work, I like to do the sanding first with the orbital, and then you know what you need to do by hand sanding. So I found that, like, whenever I do the edges first, you end up sanding parts that you didn't need to, because you were able to get it with the orbital sander. So I just find it quicker and a better method to do it that way. But then what can happen if you do your edges last is you can get some sort of deeper sanding scratches that the metallics will sit into. And the main reason I say that is that they say with this system that you don't need to use a base coat blender. However, there is a transparent base coat color. It's one of these tinters here. I think it's like $4.90, that's it. So it's tinted clear additive is what it's called. You can just put that straight into a gun, and that actually stays in this gun of mine. And you reduce it 20% just with the water. And I put that over my blends, and I find that just fills in some of those sanding scratches from doing the edges. And as far as like using what gun you like, I mean, I've been using my Pro Lights with great results. I find it's more about how you spray it than what you're spraying it with. As you would expect, like any gun can spray it really. Like, reps come out and they will always try to tell you that you have to use the SATA HVLP, WSB or whatever, but it's not true. Like, they're so convincing that they nearly had me thinking that I needed one. And then after, you know, a couple of days, I'm like, no, like, there's nothing wrong with the Pro Lights, and you can use whatever gun you like. Apart from that, one of the things that I'll find a little bit bizarre about the way that PPG do their thinning ratios. So, like, if you were to mix up some clear coat, we use LVC 136. When you were to mix that up, the ratio is like 3:1:1. But then I've made a few mentions about this in my Raw channel, and it's kind of confusing. Now, if you've got yourself a can to mix it up on the side, like these PPS cans actually have those ratios on the side of the can, which is actually handy. But it's like most paint systems will go 3:1 plus 10%, and the plus is actually important too. So this here is 3:1:1. Now, what that is in a percentage, I don't even know. Like, I've thought about it and I've tried figuring it out. I actually don't even know exactly how much of a percent that is, and it's not plus, so it's inclusive. So if you were to mix up 1 liter, the reducer is included in it. So that again changes the ratio. But look, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. We mix all our stuff mainly up on the computer, so you can sort of tweak the numbers on that computer. All right, so where was I? I just had a couple of people walk in and have a chat. I just met one of those trade school teachers, I think he is, and he's coming out because of the coronavirus. He actually comes out to site. Positive Throttle, go check out his site. He seemed like a really good dude. Sorry about that. If I forgot exactly where I'm up to, I just had a couple of people walk into the paint room, and that disrupted my train of thought exactly where I was up to. But I think we're up to the thinning ratio. So yeah, that was a little bit confusing for me at the start, and to get the right thinning ratios and find the right thinning ratios on the computer, because it seems to me that the computer is a little bit cluttered. It seems like with the Standox system, it's a little bit more just straight to the point. I think part of that is possibly because of the amount of paint lines that are available with PPG. Like there is so many different products on there, so to find the exact one that you want sometimes can take a little bit of time. And then when you get to it, there's like 5 or 6 different thinning ratios with it, and it's like sometimes like trial and error for someone like me who's just, I'm here on my own sort of trying to figure out how to get it done. But yeah, so look, I'm pretty much there now. I've found out that with this LVC 136 clear at the moment, the way I've been mixing it up is 3:1 plus 0.9 reducer, and that's going to give me a good finish for like the Japanese, Australian, American style cars with that little bit of a finer, tighter, flatter finish on it. And if I want to go for the more European, thicker, chunky appeal, I'll be going 3:1 plus 0.8. Now that's some of the finer details that many of you may not even need to know, but that's just what I've found. It may help some other people. Most of the time I've been using the 420 reducer. However, if you're just doing a bumper and you're in a hurry, you can use the 444 reducer, which is just a fast reducer. That's another thing that may be worth mentioning, is that this is one thing I do actually like about it, is that they've just got, say, this one clear that we use, and then we've got the one hardener. We use that for the clear coat and the wet on wet. And yeah, I actually, now there is one wet on wet mode that you can mix up, which is plastic mode. So that's with the LVA 650, and when you mix it up, you actually do have to use a different hardener. But as I say, most of the time it's just that one hardener, which is kind of good. It's so you don't have to clutter up with all these different hardeners and thinners, but you change the speed of how it dries with the reducer, not the hardener. So that's kind of good in its own way. Whereas most systems I've used, they will have fast, medium, and slow hardeners, and then actually they'll have fast, medium, and slow reducers as well. But this way seems to work fine. I don't use the LVC 105 clear, which is a really good clear. I'd probably say it's my favorite clear, but that stuff's very expensive, and the boss just ended up saying, for the sake of making it easier and just having one clear, we're just going to all use the 136. One of my favorite things about this system would have to be their wet on wet. It just goes down so smooth and silky, and it has like basically no texture in it. So that's definitely one of my favorite things about it. But one thing that I was a little bit surprised about when I came here, like they use like this one primer for every prime up job. And it's like a mid-grey, so it's I think it's G5 is the color shade of it. Now when you're doing wet on wet, you can pretty much get any shade you like, from dark to light and in between. But yeah, like it's just strange because I don't always want to use wet on wet. Like if I'm doing a quarter panel and a rear door, I don't want to get wet on wet primer inside there, because your color doesn't always follow it, and you got to either do your cutting and your polishing, and then sometimes you've even got to spray it in. So if they just had the right colored primer on the jobs, it would make it a lot easier, but they don't seem to do that here. Now I know that some people are going to say, oh, but you can use the wet on wet as a sandable primer. But look, I tried it once and it didn't seem to dry as nice. It definitely didn't dry as fast. The build didn't seem to be quite as good. So why they don't have a darker, a lighter, and a medium sandable primer and then push them to be used in their shops is beyond me. But apart from that, I've probably forgotten something. I always do when I do these videos, but I actually have to get back to work pretty soon. So yeah, be sure to leave a comment down below. I can't guarantee that I'm going to get back to you, but I always do my best. Apart from that, go and check out my Gunman Raw channel. I've been very active on that channel lately. And basically on that channel, if you're not familiar, I just put the GoPro on my head and I'll be walking around and painting, and sometimes even doing prep work, and I'll just be talking you guys through the job as I'm doing it. So you know, the production quality and the audio and all that is not going to be as good as what you would expect on this channel here, but there are many people who do actually prefer that channel, because there might be some things that I forget to include on this main channel. As I say, I always do it because I do all my videos off the top of my head. I probably forgot to say something that I did want to say in this video. But apart from that, be sure to go and check out the Gunman merch. We've got loads of new Gunman merch. If you go and check out the link in the description, you can support the show. We've got spray suits, and we're actually going to be doing a merch giveaway soon. So be sure to stick around for that. And yeah, I'll be giving you guys, I'll do a video on that soon just to let you guys know. Anyway, until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.